Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We review anything and everything. And today we're getting into another Marvel Legends review. This is the Marvel Legends series Deadpool Legacy Collection. I don't really know if that pertains to just say the older movies, as they just recently released a line for the Deadpool and Wolverine ones, which is current. So I think usually with Marvel Legends, when they say legacy, it's a way of going back to an older set of figures, whether it's the movie line, whether it's the comic line, similar to the way they do the retro carded for some of the X-Men characters and whatnot, and other superheroes. So I think that that's what it means. But nonetheless, you could tell that this is the version of Colossus that was depicted in X-Men. I'm sorry, in Deadpool. I want to say in the first one and the second one. I think he was wearing this outfit. I'm not really too sure if uh, I don't remember if he was inside Wolverine and Deadpool. So definitely from the other ones, but nonetheless, he's a great looking figure. Disclaimer: let me get this out of the way. When it comes to most of these Marvel Legend figures, I do a non-unboxing review. This is because I like the idea of collecting the figures and keeping them in the box if they have a clear plastic display. If they don't, then usually often I will open them. If at a later point in time I decide to open it and take it out, I will do so. In this case, I will take the whole plastic out of the box, but I won't take the figure out of the plastic. So jumping along, let's going to cover through the box real quick. You could see that he comes with two hands, and he has the two heads, and I'm sorry, the traditional hands, the open hands, and then he's got his closed fist. He's got a book to read. Let's see if we could zoom in on this to kind of show what it says. Rule number 1, no killing anyone ever. Rule number 2, a little hard for me to see. Label everything. If you guys could see that, I can't see that. Label everything in the refrigerator. Okay. So without looking at it through the camera, it's too small for me to see just straight on. Here you could see some of the box art depicting him from the movie, or at least this is of the figure, but it looks almost like it was from the movie, but you could tell from the cut because the figure is, the movie version is computer generated. So it's funny because he actually looks very similar to these renderings, because I'm sure that these are renderings and not the actual figure. Says over here, Marvel's Colossus. Colossus is a towering, virtuous mutant known for his organic steel body, which grants him immense strength and durability. I'm going to get into the basics of the character in a little bit, just in terms of talking on him. I am going to pop open the box, and we're just going to pull out the plastic. So you can see him here, and he is definitely a pretty large figure. He's not going to stand in that way, but what I'm going to do is measure him. Let's see. Now he's not standing up perfectly straight, but already comes to about 7.5 inches of the way he is now, roughly. So if he was fully standing up, he might be close to 8 inches. Yeah, very nice figure. And the thing about it too is other versions of him, especially the one where it's with Juggernaut, and you have him with the 2-pack with the Juggernaut, which is supposed to be from the classic comic, where I think it's either Juggernaut's first appearance or just where they battle each other. And essentially that set, I think, goes for like 70 something or more. Is it like 100? It's something in that more expensive range. So this pretty much is the only available Colossus at the moment. I would say that's a reasonable price, not considering the Marvel Select version, but within the Marvel Legends lineup. And I definitely think that, well, he's not actually cheap, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna have the link in the description below. He goes for he goes for $40, which is a bit more expensive than your average figure, almost double. The average figure is 25 normally, so $40 is almost double the price. But the thing about it is, so if you pre-ordered him, and you ordered him from, say, Hasbro directly, the problem is that they have a certain limited amount. I'm sorry, not limited. They have a certain threshold you have to make in terms of what you order to get free shipping. So unfortunately for me, since I pre-ordered him, I end up having to pay an additional, I think, like $6 for shipping. So that brought the price total to like about $51, which at that point, that's my fault for doing that, but it puts him at a price range that really is not worth, you know, the asking price. At 40, it's still a pinch, I would say, unless he's one of your favorite characters, wait until maybe he's on sale. But I feel like the problem with a lot of Marvel Legends characters is that sometimes they come out brand new. They might come out a little pricey. Sometimes they might come out as a premium because they're hard to get. Like if you see them on Amazon or something like that, and they might be more expensive at certain locations where they're hard to get. But then later on, while you think it's going to decrease in price, it ends up being that you can't get it at all. And so I've experienced that with um, Scarlet Spider, the Scarlet Spider-Man character. They call him Scarlet Spider. The new one that had recently came out, I want to say for 2024. I waited for that to go a little bit more on sale because I think it was close to about like $40, 35, $40, and thinking that it would become more available at some point later. That didn't happen. It only got more expensive and harder to find. Um, and the same with the X-Men 97 series. All those figures, which were $25, now on average are about $45 to $50 each. So sometimes waiting can be a bad thing when it comes to these Marvel Legends figures because the supply is short and they will jack up the price. Excuse me. A little bit on the character though. Well, before I get into that, a little bit on the design as far as what they chose to go with. Obviously, he's from the movie, and I think the movie rendition is pretty nice. I think the movie rendition is faithful to the character, though it's different than the comic version that we would normally see in terms of his outfit. But obviously, it's more of a laid back outfit, something better for movie purposes and less colorful, but also could just be seen more as a casual look for Colossus rather than his X-Men suit or, kind of obviously the movies always had a more reserved X suit, even since the first movies of the X-Men, Black and whatever the case is, where they made jokes about the whole, what should I be in yellow spandex or something like that. So I think that the figure looks nice and the rendition that they use him is great. As far as the character himself and a little bit of the history of the character, he was always the strong guy of the team. It's funny because when they introduced, for the most part, so X-Men can divide into two groups, X-Men Blue, X-Men Gold. And though they are a certain mix of characters, the the TV show, the anime, seemed to kind of really dive heavy into what mostly seemed like the X-Men Blue team. Though I think some of the characters who would be on the X-Men Gold team were on this setup, but for the most part, it was heavily inspired by the X-Men Blue team. Most of the members who were the on the TV show on the anime. So Colossus was replaced as the main strong guy in place of characters like Beast and Rogue, which is interesting because in the 90s, Rogue was not physically that strong of a character. Having what Marvel would consider on their charts a strength 4 out of 7, she was able to lift 10 tons. She really wasn't that strong versus the characters who were um, on the current roster at the time. She was the physically strongest one, but still wasn't that strong. That's where Colossus really came into play. Colossus was really the strong guy of the team. He really was on a whole nother level versus the other ones where back then with their charts, and their charts may have been dated, um, in terms of what was displayed into the comics, but Colossus was able to lift 70 tons above his head. And so considerably more stronger than Rogue. And even if you just use that um, as a scale, not to say he can lift 70 tons, but say if he can lift more than that, but we're just using comparative scale to say, well, how much more is he stronger than, say, someone like Rogue or someone like Beast, who Beast can also kind of lift 10 tons as well, though probably not resilient to doing it as Rogue, because she's a lot more durable of a character. And I think that plays a role when it comes to your physical strength as well. But nonetheless, um, it could be measured as a scale to say that, well, Colossus would be 70, I mean, sorry, 7 times stronger than someone like Rogue or Beast. And so even if it was used in that regards, the point is that Colossus was always the strong person of the team, comparable to characters like The Thing, comparable to characters like Strong Guy on X Factor, or any strong character on the team. And so back then, also in the 90s, before you had these super mutants that were, before you even had the term Omega level or anything like that, and you didn't have characters who were like, uh, you know, doing crazy um, reality warping and manipulation, whatever the case is, and things were a little bit more basic. Colossus was one of the most powerful characters on the team because at that point, um, where when you had things like the optic blast, you had agile characters like Beast, you had characters like Gambit who shot his energy projection as well. Iceman with his energy projection, he wasn't Omega level at the time. He just shot Ice Blast. He had a little bit above human level durability. You had Storm who in theory would have always been able to do the damage that she does now, but nonetheless, they never really displayed her like that, giving her a little bit of weakness in terms of maybe fatigue, claustrophobic, and this and that. And all the various characters, Colossus was a standout character of being like literally the most powerful character on the X-Men team for the most part. Like he was the only one who had really, really good durability along with his strength and whatnot. Obviously, Rogue was always a character who, when she became popular, was able to kind of hold her own as well because she's actually very durable as far as the card stats went. She, out of a 7 total durability, she had a 6, where Colossus has a 5. So, or at least I believe Colossus has a 5. Most things kind of cater to that thought process because the Thing has a 5, and I always thought that he was equivalent to the Thing. Sorry if I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, but nonetheless, he was considered for the most part one of the most well-rounded, powerful people in the X-Men. Now today, with all these super powerful bumps that everyone's gotten, characters who've gotten enhanced abilities, people like Scarlet Witch, who used to just be a person who flung magic around, was considered like a low-level person, is now super omega power threat. Franklin Richards, you have all these other characters. Cable has gotten stronger in the years. He always had the potential to be stronger, but never really was on his base level because of the virus. But then you had X-Man, that Nate Gray, I don't know, or Nathan Gray, whatever his real name is, but he's the alternate version of Cable. Super powerful in his Omega level mutant abilities. My point is that characters who were traditionally, when things were kind of a little more streamlined, which I loved it back in the 90s, the way characters were designed, they weren't OP. People like Colossus took a back seat. And even though I think they did increase his strength over the years to kind of catch up with times to a bit, strength and durability was no longer a category or a power that made you feel overwhelmingly powerful anymore. Not when now you have characters who would just, rather than take a gunshot to the chest and walk it off, you now had people who just made the gun evaporate and didn't exist anymore. And you weren't even in front of them anymore because now you're in some warped reality and you can't even find your way back. And now it's like it's a whole different ball game. So back in the days where things were more conventional, closer to the simplistic power days, like when you look at things like the Incredibles movie. A lot in the 90s, a lot of characters were and even before the 90s, because that was based off that kind of old school 60s superhero tellings. A lot of characters were more closer in line with that, where no one was over the top really. So that's when Colossus used to shine. So a bit of a rant, but I just wanted to kind of dive into that. I really love the character of Colossus as always. a fan of the strong characters. Back in the days when I used to get figures, I used to always get the strong characters, the Hulk, the Thing, Juggernaut characters who were physically strong. I just always liked them. So Colossus is one of those ones I always wanted. It's being that there is no other modern version of him out that is in an arm and a leg. This is probably the most affordable one that you can get. Try not to get it where you're going to be paying the extra shipping like I did. But if you get it on Amazon, I'm sure it should be around its normal price range, which should be, if I'm not mistaken, $39, $40. So link's going to be in the description below. As always, you guys like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys